Hello and welcome to The Quest on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Rakhee Bakshee. This show gives you a deep insight into the life, career and vision of a leading personality. And that leading personality this time with us in the studio is a Lok Sabha MP from Shiromani Akali Dal. She's Harsimrat Kaur and we're all waiting to hear from her. First of all, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Tell me, how did it all start for you, getting into politics?
That's such a long story. It's $1 million question. If I tell you the truth, it actually goes back to an understanding that my husband and I had before we got married, that he would never enter politics, and that was the basis of us getting married.
Okay,
so,
interesting.
So it goes back to that, and 2 years down the line, he became an MP. And I thought to myself, what a foolish girl you are. A politician's son is obviously going to become a politician. You were so naive to believe that and to think that would even be possible.
Well, that would be the start of a long journey.
Yeah, I think it probably then, because I didn't know a word of Punjabi, and coming from the Badal family and the Shiromani Akali Dal, you're supposed to be fluent in Punjabi and not use a word of English or Hindi, because that's the worst crime you could commit. Okay. So when I was sent out to do door-to-door canvassing for him, must be like I think 4 years after our marriage or 3 years after our marriage, my biggest plight used to be that how to take out 5 sentences in Punjabi without getting it wrong and without sounding like an anadi with a Hindi accent.
And here you are, we see you in Parliament now, taking it all off.
So it was a long journey from then, and I think just campaigning for him and then nurturing his constituency.
But you've been also running that NGO, Nanni Chan. Why I'm saying this is that you had this social instinct which converted into political.
I didn't convert it at all. I had no intentions of getting into, I didn't want my husband getting into politics. Me getting into politics was out of the question. There was no way. But I think sometimes destiny has other ideas. I started Nanni Cha in 2008 after I'd finished with having my kids and I had a little bit of time, and I realized in Punjab that it has the blot of having the worst girl sex ratio in the country, and that made me really sad because I had 2 daughters of my own, and actually maybe the reaction I had from the people in Punjab when I had daughters, that kind of being a Delhiite, you don't really think of these things, but in Punjab it's such an issue. So I think.
But are you saying you actually felt it, that you had 2 daughters?
Oh, let's not, I try not to talk about it much because I wouldn't like my daughters to hear about it. But so I think that's when it really hit home that something needs to change, and this kind of attitude will not do, So I think that's where the seeds of Nanni Cha were laid, and when I got an opportunity to be a part of starting something, it was more to change the mindset, and the issues were too many. I couldn't change the issues, but it was like to enlighten the people. What does our religion say, and how necessary she is in society, and why do we think of her as a burden and stuff like that. So it started off like that, and I think probably people took to it, especially the women folk came out, because it's something which affects every woman. No matter whether you're a grandmother, mother, or daughter, it's somewhere down the line in our Indian society, in our Indian mentality makeup there, this is something which hurts everyone. So the women of Punjab really took to it, to this issue which I was bringing out, because many had spoken, but I'm sure many had spoken, but somehow they kind of joined with this issue. And I would say that maybe Nanni Cha pushed me towards politics, because I was not campaigning, but creating awareness all over Punjab about Nanni Cha, and the next thing I knew, the people in the constituency were saying we want her, kind of a thing. So,
but some would say that for you getting into politics was rather easy. The husband, a father-in-law, already established.
My husband was an MP and his constituency got reserved. So when this other constituency, the neighbouring one, got unreserved, and my husband was supposed to stand from there. In the meantime, there was a by-election and he got into state politics. So this was, I think, just about 6-8 months before parliamentary elections. So he told me, he says, you go and start looking after the parliamentary constituency, because even if I don't fight, whoever fights from there, you will have to canvass just like you used to do in my earlier constituency. So I was actually canvassing there for the Shiromani Akali Dal. There was no question of me. I mean, the women folk in our family don't get into politics. My mother-in-law didn't.
So another first.
Yeah, so it was actually the ex-CM who said that I'm going to make my son stand from here and drive the Badals out. So it was like, in Punjab, it's all ghar ki izzat and party ki izzat. So how can a present ex-CM so-called lalkaro the present CM? It was more that, and there were only 4 members. My father-in-law and husband were already the CM and the deputy CM. That left my mother-in-law and me. So when the ex-CM put his son against me, then people started saying we want her, and plus I was canvassing there, and because of Nanni Cha.
How did you feel that time? Did you feel you were kind of countering somebody?
I refused. I fought tooth and nail. My kids howled. We all said get anyone but me. But that's where I say I think destiny plans for you, you cannot override them. At the end of the day, it's the will of the Almighty. I know how I didn't want to marry into a political family, and today my husband laughs at me. He says, "You're in politics, I'm in politics. A lot of us are in politics now."
You know, Ms. Kaur, we've seen you in Parliament, how vocal you are. You take up issues so vibrantly. How was it in Parliament actually, and how has it been in the sense that how much chance do you get as a member of Parliament?
You know, there are two things which stand out when I think of the Parliament. Like any newcomer, you come here with all those ideas of wanting to change things and set it right and make a difference. And what's really sad is that after a while the system gets to you and you realize that you're actually not in a position to change a thing. And I actually feel bad because I think that what goes on in that Parliament is a waste of the taxpayers' money. Discussions and debates take place, but if you look at it, out of all the people who speak, I mean, you look at the food security bill where I think something like 300 people spoke on the bill and not one idea of anybody's was incorporated. So why are we wasting time debating if the ruling party is just going to push their own agenda and shut the ears to what anyone's willing to say? And that's what one learnt. A senior
but someone would also say here, a party like you maybe, for example, comes up with an issue which is, let's say, only isolated to Punjab, your state, but it comes up on the national stage to the Parliament, and that's where also disruptions take place.
Absolutely, and that's the worst, because just because you're a small party and you have few members doesn't mean the issue is small. You know, something like food or water or all these things affect Punjab in a very big way. And but because you're a small party, you'll get 5 minutes to speak and are supposed to say everything in those 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes you can't tell what the problem is and what the solution is and what we're expecting, and you're being told to keep quiet. And then of course it's your co-partners from Punjab who are trying to shout you down because you're obviously talking against their government. So it's sad, because I had thought that Parliament was a place where ideas would get together and the best ideas would be picked up from everybody and we'd all work together to move the country ahead. But that's not what it is. It's all about shouting the other person down, showing the other person down, and the ruling party just pushing through the agenda. And actually, I'm disillusioned.
Let's see what new hope you talk about later in this program. But right now you're watching The Quest and we are talking to Ms. Harsimrat Kaur. We'll keep talking to her. Don't go away. Still watch The Quest because we're just coming back shortly. Welcome back to the show. We are talking to Ms. Harsimrat Kaur right now. Your party, how are you looking in the future? In Delhi, you've done well, so to say, but talk about your alliance with the BJP and also your future strategy.
We came into power in Punjab a year and a half ago, where we created history because there was always a revolving door government between Akalis would come, then Congress would come, just like it happens in Rajasthan. So we created history by coming back a second time, and that too with a better margin than the time before that. So that was a kind of a history of sorts. After that, we won the Shiromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee in Punjab, and that was a landslide victory. And after that, we fought the Delhi Gurdwara Management Committee, which is an election of all the Sikhs. It's like a Sikh body which governs the Sikhs, and which had been dominated by Congress stooges that they had put up, and they would use it to divide the Sikhs. And this happened in Delhi 6 months ago or 8 months back, the election, and we swept in those elections. And I think that kind of set the base for the Sikhs all uniting together. So the happy...
But were you expecting a little more?
We got 3 out of 4 seats. Usually BJP would give us 1 or 2 seats. This time we wanted 4, we got 4. Maybe not exactly the constituencies we wanted. And we won 3 out of 4. So like I was telling Sushma ji that actually Akali Dal's average is better than the BJP's also.
So this encourages you to go further.
Yes, definitely. We're going to expand Akali Dal into other states as well. And along with our ally, this is I think one of the oldest allies that BJP has had. And my father-in-law has a really, really good relationship with the party, and we plan to take it ahead.
You know, I've seen you in the Parliament. In fact, how seniors, you talked about Sushma ji, and other senior leaders have come and patted you when you've spoken well. That's the kind of rapport and the kind of attention you personally have got. But are you looking at other women also, that they should also come up, more women should be fielded into politics? We still think that the number is dismal.
That's a fact. That's there. I always say that being a woman, if I've come into this stream, when I go to a village, I always call the women folk and ask them what their issues are. And they say no one's ever done that. And if they wanted to tell their problems, the men folk push them aside and say, nee, they have no problems. And things like drinking water or getting water in the house or having toilets, these are something that is so vital for a woman who has to carry, you know, pails of water on her head or matkas of water and go out into the dark and can't go to the washroom unless, to a toilet in the fields unless it's dark.
These are real issues.
And no man addresses these issues because they don't affect it doesn't affect the men.
But why don't we see more women, first of all, getting tickets and then...
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing, which is why reservation is really important. Yes, in the panchayats it's become 50%, and no doubt they're just rubber stamps for their husbands. Usually when I say that, where's the sarpanch, and they say he's the sarpanch, I said no, but it's a woman. Oh, it's his wife. So I said, so where is she? She's at home. So it's like, so but the women are changing, and I tell them, no, bring her. She has to be here. And I tell her, it's your responsibility. You go find out from the women what the issues are and come and tell me. So this is the way that they'll move forward. That's why we need more. We need that reservation to give women that boost, and that's when women issues are going to be discussed.
How hopeful are you? Because there is a momentum.
I'm not at all hopeful, but it has to happen eventually. Just look at the way people's mindset regarding crime against women is changing. I mean, today women are speaking up, men are getting punished, and I think this is really good the way the media is supporting it, the public support is there, and this is what's going to put the pressure on us politicians to ensure, you make loose statements and take it so casually, because it's been so casual. I think 9 out of 10 women have been at the brunt of this, of some kind of a, either in the bus or the roadside or workplace or college. They've all had to suffer at the hands of something which they've not wanted, and men take so much for granted.
3 states you've done well. Delhi, of course, you're still looking at things. And Delhi is a unique scenario right now. How would you look at Delhi as a political situation? We saw Aam Aadmi Party really doing well. And we were talking about women, 3 women from Aam Aadmi Party who've made it. How would you look now as Aam Aadmi Party as a challenge?
I think more than Aam Aadmi Party or an individual as such, this is the desperation of the people in our country for honest and clean governance and honest politicians and better systems. Frankly, all us politicians included, not just now of course this government in particular seems to have messed things up more than ever before. But the reputation slowly and steadily of politicians has got demeaned to such an extent that I don't think a single youngster today, starting from a school child, including my own kids, nobody thinks well of them, and forget about any of them wanting to come into this profession. And a profession which is supposed to be inclusive, where participation from the public is, no one wants to get into politics, then where is the future of the country, democracy heading? So it is actually really sad. And what gives me hope is when parties like this come up and they talk about good, clean governance and the people support it. I think this
But as a party, would you look at re-strategizing in terms of looking at, things in a different fashion? Because now there is a party which is kind of there, and it has got people's mandate.
I think that's great. The people's mandate that they got, that's what's going to make the other politicians, other parties sit up and say, we better give clean candidates and give a clean governance too, because now there's another alternative. Otherwise it was like, what can the public do? Chalta hai, they have to deal, they have to put up with us kind of an attitude. And I don't think anybody really genuinely tried to clean stuff up. And that I'm very happy that what has happened, and I hope the pressure remains, and the system needs to be cleaned up, the politics needs to be cleaned up. There's no two ways about that.
Talking about Mr. Modi, who was of course very upbeat, campaigned so much, but Delhi of course has maybe not really made him happy, or many others.
I don't think so. I think Delhi was a unique phenomenon because there was an alternative of somebody clean and honest wanting to come. Now whether they can perform clean and honestly, only time is going to tell, because it's very easy to talk anti-establishment and to grab that space. But when you come into the system and then to change it is not easy at all. I can talk like that now, which probably 5 years ago I talked like them as well. You realize it's not easy. So they've got a lot to do when they get the chance to do it, and that's when that's actually going to be their test case. As far as Mr.
Modi's charisma remains?
100%, and you will find that the country today is going to consolidate behind him because there is no other option for leadership. I mean, you look at the weak leadership of the Congress government, and if you talk about a Rahul Gandhi, who's not been a cabinet minister, he's not run a ministry, he's not been a CM, he's not run a state. It's like someone who's just got his driving license and you tell him, okay, here's a Boeing, now take off, fly off, when he's just got his driving license yesterday. So, every time he opens his mouth, it's a disaster, he says something wrong.
But he's realized many things and he's made statements that now party will look at.
But how many times has he made those statements before? And he's had 10 years to make the change. There have been so many elections, he's made those statements. No one knows. I mean, whenever there's, when a Nirbhaya occurs or anything like that, the guy is silent, there's nothing happening. So, the country today needs strong and decisive leadership to get the country out of this paralysis and this chalta hai attitude. You need a performer, a deliverer. And I think
that's a very good point to take another break on this. Chalta attitude has to go. We are right now talking to Ms. Harsimrat Kaur. We'll keep talking to her. Don't go away. We are taking a short break. Welcome back to the show. You're watching The Quest. We are in conversation with Ms. Harsimrat Kaur right now. Coming back to Punjab a little bit, look at the kind of accusations your government is facing, corruption, maybe doling out things to people in a larger manner than it should be. How are you looking at it?
I don't think corruption is an issue in Punjab at all. In fact, I think we're providing very good, clean governance, and there hasn't been any corruption scam at all. So you can't talk about corruption. As far as doles are concerned, yes, we give free electricity to the farmers. Ours is an agrarian state. You know the state of farmers. Farmers are committing suicide all over the country because farming has become so unviable that the costs of the input of the petrol, the diesel, the seeds, the fertilizer, everything is fixed by the central government, and every year there's like 100 if not 200% rise in them. And then the cost of the output, which is the grain, is also fixed by the central government, and they increase it by something like 50 rupees, which is not even 10% of the increase. So when the farmers are getting squeezed from every side, and on top of that, they have to rely on the weather gods. If there's not a drought, there's excessive rainfall. So the farmer is in such a bad way that this agrarian state, whose backbone is just agriculture, and we feed 60% of the food that feeds the nation. If these farmers were to collapse, I think the country would collapse, because where would we get our grain from? Today we're almost...
In fact, you've talked about protecting grains actually. I've seen you speaking about...
talking about them, say, you talk about food security. What about water security? Without water, which grain can grow? And we've got water in our state where there's like 33% wastage because of an old irrigation system. It needs a measly 3,000 crores to set it right. They don't give it to us because there's an Akali government over there. I mean, how foolish can your thoughts be that you want to get food security, which cannot exist without the state of Punjab, but you don't want to safeguard its water, which produces the food? So I don't understand where they're coming from. So the government of Punjab, to sustain the farmers and to sustain the country really, we had no option but to provide free electricity, and the government pays the electricity bill of the farmers so that they don't commit suicide and kill themselves because they can't meet the cost.
Sometimes it's felt that when you get power for a long time, there is a lull that you get, and that's where you become complacent. How are you trying to actually struggle with this whole phenomena?
No, I don't. I think in the case of Punjab, we have a unique opportunity where we've got a chief minister who's 5-time CM, who spent 60 years of his life in this profession and started off as a sarpanch to become a CM. So there's not a single village or a single city or a mandi in Punjab where he has not been and people don't know him. On the other side, we've got a deputy CM who's MBA educated and very forward thinking, who's got a vision for Punjab. Just yesterday, we had the Investors Summit in Punjab where he had been all over India selling Punjab to all these top businessmen, and then invited them all to Punjab yesterday. And we had right from Mukesh Ambani to LN Mittal to Airtel to all the top people that Infosys, and they've all signed MOUs and they're going to be investing big money in Punjab because we've set the systems in place. We're number one in infrastructure, we're almost number one in education, we are number one in agriculture. So we've brought in governance reforms so that it cuts out the red tapeism, made it easy for anybody to flourish and prosper in Punjab. And you know, the enterprising Punjabi, they go anywhere in the country.
Talking about enterprising Punjabi, you know, this turban issue, and the other day I was talking to another Sikh leader from the other party. This issue is quite big in foreign countries. Generally, and you've spoken about, you've shown your concern. How do you look at this?
It's problem? Really unfortunate, especially ever since 9/11 took place in the US, which was over a decade ago. Just because Bin Laden wore a turban and had a beard, today these, I don't know, I call them, you can't call them uneducated, but ignorant foreigners who just think because there's a turban and a beard, he's some relative of Bin Laden's and they belong to the same community. So on the basis of the attire of the Sikhs, those Sikhs who have actually contributed towards the economy building of that nation are being targeted on the basis of their looks. And targeted in which way? You saw in UK how that old 80-year-old gentleman was beaten up by this young white girl on the mall. And the racial attacks in the US are a dime a dozen. You saw in that Wisconsin, that temple, how someone went and just, you know, things like this they've been facing the brunt of it for the last 12 years. In a place like France, Sikh children are not even given admission in their government schools unless they cut off their hair and take off their turbans. In Italy,
so like these kind of concerns you're raising it, what are your plans to raise certain other issues, let's say in Parliament or otherwise?
I think Sikh issues has been very close to me. Unfortunately, a state government cannot do, because this is a country to country level, and unfortunately, in spite of a Sikh Prime Minister, it has not taken up as of prime importance, and I feel if he doesn't, who else will? So this is a very important issue as far as the community is concerned. As far as my state is concerned, like I said, water, agriculture, all these things are very important issues. Another issue which is very close to my heart is the 1984 genocide which took place, and if you go and see the way those people are living in the condition that they are, it's actually really sad. That forget about trying to repent. Today the government points fingers at other people, but I say, has any of them even gone and see the plight of those women and how they've lived for 30 years? And today you've got the likes of Sajjan Kumar's sons getting tickets, and Jagdish Tytler, and all these people, the government working overtime to protect them. They've got security for their protection, instead of having to, the court is saying that no, cases cannot be withdrawn because there's too much proof, but the government...
No, but coming back to your own statements, as you said rightly, that honest politicians are really needed, and now I think each party would look very carefully as to how to find the right candidates with right credentials. So again, I would like to come to the political future of the party and strategy. How are you looking at things? Would you really change something in terms of your vision?
Our government has always had one vision, which we came into it with 6 years ago, which was the development of Punjab, and to provide equal opportunity of development to every section of society, uplift the poor. And there's so many schemes that one has come. Just recently a scheme which I find really dear to me, I think, because I think the girl child matters to me. So one of the schemes which when the government came into power, I convinced my father-in-law, was to give free education to the girl child till class 10. Then another one, when the president, the ex-president Shrimati Pratibha Patil, when she came for a Nanni Jha function to Amritsar, so I got around the CM and told him, you know, she's coming, how can you not announce anything? He says, okay, what do you want me to announce? So I said, what about giving free bicycles? Because, you know, connectivity in the villages is a problem. So girls' education gets limited to, if there's a 5th school in the village, they'll study till the 5th and no more, because the environment is not so good. Parents don't feel happy sending their kids. So I said, why don't you give bicycles to the girls, which is another new scheme that he started. And the one which I admire the most is what we have just recently launched, that, you know, the poorest of the poor go to the government schools. And they're actually, some of the kids are really intelligent. It's just lack of finances and opportunity. So he set up these schools where all kids getting 80% in class 10, there'll be hostel, these schools which will have the best of education, which is better than any private school. Okay. It'll be a residential hostel, free education, free food, free stay.
So that's happening for children and youth. But finally, the question that, you know, talking about these alliances, I mean, of course, your alliance with the BJP is strong.
Very strong.
What about the other fronts? Now with Aam Aadmi Party coming in, a lot of other parties will now like to cobble up together. How do you look at this cobbling up of other parties?
At the end of the day, all the parties will go with whoever's gets the majority numbers in the center. As far as Punjab is concerned, we have no issue. There's just two parties. Either there's the Akali Dal BJP or there's Congress. There's nobody else is even worth mentioning. It's been like that. I mean, we had one new party of like PPP trying to rear its head, and it's been wiped out. But as far as the centre is concerned, I'm pretty sure all these third fronts and this front, that front, BJP is going to emerge as the biggest party, and the moment the results are declared, you'll find all these others trying to come in and form an alliance.
We'll still talk to you then also, but finally, your quest, your vision, Harsimrat Kaur, for the future, your personal.
You know, my quest, my vision for the future is actually for the women. They hold up half the sky, they're half the population. It's unfair that today half of them, 50% of our women are uneducated, over 50% are malnourished, over 60% are anemic. Every 12 minutes there's a molestation, every 15 minutes there's a rape, every 1 hour there's a dowry death. I mean, it's totally unfair. It's an unfair world, looking at it from the woman's perspective. And I say that the next century tomorrow belongs to the women. Unless you let these women flourish and progress, your country cannot progress. And they will, because the way women are proceeding or the way they are rising, nothing can stop them.
Thanks for having women like you, and all the very best for the future. And thanks for joining the show once again here. This was Ms. Harsimrat Kaur talking to us in The Quest. Hope you watched this edition of The Quest very interestingly, and hope you liked it too. Keep watching. Namaskar. Bye-bye.